So as a little kid, I would tell my mom about people that were behind her. I could hear people walking up and down the hallways and coming into my room. It scared the bejesus out of me, right?
Was your mom not dismissive of it?
Oh, my mom was very much interested in it. My dad saw everything as black and white. So if he couldn't see it and hear it, then it didn't exist. So I felt like I got a balanced kind of view on all of that, right? But as a kid, I had a day bed. So I would take all of my stuffed animals and I would put them around me to look over me whenever I was asleep at night. Well, now that I'm where I'm at now, I see that I was setting a boundary.
Welcome back to the Quiet Knowing Podcast. Today we're joined by Gypsy Soul Fair host and experienced medium, Shanna Tippit. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me
Thank
here.
you so much for being here. Can you start by telling us a little bit about what the quiet knowing means to you?
Gosh, that could go into a lot of directions for me. Because I feel like there are many times in our lives where we have to stop and breathe and take space so that we can find that quiet knowing. Because everything's so fast-paced. We have so much that's going on around us all the time with social media, with TV, whatever is going on. There's so much going on, so much noise, right? So then it takes a little bit for us to find that quiet knowing, right? Mm-hmm. Through meditation, through just breath, through grounding, through being in nature. So when you say quiet knowing, I can go off into many different directions.
Which one just like kind of calls to you a little bit more right now?
For me, always, I feel like nature and meditation. Nature and meditation are always my ways because I meditate every single day.
Yeah.
Every morning, I take time to find that center and that grounding and let my guides come in and have a conversation with me if they want to. And sometimes they're quiet and they're like, you're good for the day, you know? So
yeah. Luckily, we've had a mild winter so far, so you can still get out there.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I live in the middle of town.
Okay.
So sometimes I go out in the backyard and I'm like, oh, it's so nice. And then someone will, start a chainsaw. I'm like, oh, really? Let's please stop.
So through meditation, you kind of find that quiet knowing. But what's the source of the quiet knowing for you?
Gosh, the source. Well, I feel like that's always spirit. You know what I mean? Always being able to connect with spirit. Whenever I say spirit, when I say they and them, I'm always connecting to many of spirit. I mean, it's not just creator, right? Because creator has created so many beings to be with us. Our guardian angels, our spirit guides, and then we have many of them. All these different dimensions and things. I always tell people there's a million different things that goes into any one nuance, right? Our meditation, our words, our thoughts, our actions, everything. So, we have all these beings that help to guide us, and that I believe that's kind of where we were at and talking about. And my source is through all of everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard to try to pinpoint stuff for myself. Yeah.
So when did your spiritual journey begin?
I feel like my spiritual journey actually began as a kid. As a medium, I've been able to see spirit my entire life, right? So there's been many different, I would say, steps into my spiritual journey and my knowing and my expansion, I guess you could say. So as a little kid, I would tell my mom about people that were behind her. I could hear people walking up and down the hallways and coming into my room. It scared the bejesus out of me, right?
Was your mom not dismissive of it?
Oh, my mom was very much interested in it. My dad saw everything as black and white. So if he couldn't see it and hear it, then it didn't exist. So I felt like I got a balanced kind of view on all of that, right? But as a kid, I had a day bed. So I would take all of my stuffed animals and I would put them around me to look over me whenever I was asleep at night. Well, now that I'm where I'm at now, I see that I was setting a boundary. Whereas I set a boundary in my conscious, adult mind now is completely different, right? I ask my angels and my guides to set up boundaries and protections when I sleep at night because I know that's a huge open door for spirit to come in, right? Because when we're unconscious, boom, we're awake. Right. So then I had, when I was 15, I had my first psychic vision. So that was another step, right? I was on a date, my very first date I'd ever been on. My dad was very strict. I had a very early curfew. We had enough time to go to the movies and get home, right? Well, the movie ran late, so the guy was like, oh, okay, you know what? We're going to take a different way home. Even though was very familiar, we lived out in the country with different roads and stuff. He took a back road that I didn't know. As soon as he said he was going to do that, I saw a deer jumping out in front of us as we went over this certain hill and us hitting it. Well, how do I say, hey, I just had a vision. I just had a vision, So I didn't. And guess what happened? That same hill that I saw in my vision and the deer jumping out and we hit it. We were okay, but we were really, really late getting home because his car was crap. We could not hardly make it home.
So did you have like a moment where you were like, oh my gosh, I knew this was going to happen? And how did that affect you?
It made me more aware of paying attention, and I needed to figure out a way to voice that, right? Because I'd had other things that had happened, even after that, where you have the bad feeling, oh, something's going on, but I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. Paying attention to those feelings. I need to call somebody. And you don't do it, and then they pass away. You know what I mean? I've had those instances too. But yeah, and then as I got into my 20s, I started meditating. And that made a big, huge shift for me because I'm a medium, but I'm a physical medium, which means my empath abilities are exponential, okay? So whenever I go to work on somebody, I will feel their pain in their body, right? Sometimes someone who's passed away, if they died of something like, say, cancer of the stomach, I'll get stomach pains. If they got hit in the head, I'll feel, and it's very, it's hard on the body. Mm-hmm. So I've actually asked Spirit not to come through in that way as much. We can do that. We have control over what we do, right? Or how we interact with Spirit. So I was like, okay, guys, this is really hard on my body. So I've kind of, tried to get them to back off from that unless it's necessary for me to get something to come through. The meditation helped. It helped me to ground. It helped me to keep from absorbing everybody. It helped me to set those boundaries that I didn't know how to set. And I feel like that grew and grew. Well, that was another way of awakening because that's what you're asking, different. So I'm saying different places, created more experience and more opening and more expansion. In my 30s, I became a Reiki master. I was like, I finally got to a point that I was like, okay, I can see, I can hear, you know what I mean? What do you want me to do with this, God creator? What am I supposed to do with this? So then I learned Reiki. I was reading books, just downloading stuff. It was like download. I started making jewelry and working with crystals. And you know what I mean? It just kind of, and there were lots of things that happened in between there, like life experiences. I feel like we learn most of our lessons whenever we're in that really dark space. So I've had several of those dark spaces throughout that time that elicited some of those things to happen. Mm-hmm. In those experiences.
So how do you feel like all of that kind of led to what you're doing today?
I always felt, even as a kid, that I had something really, really important to do. That feeling, and I always felt like, okay, well, I have something really important to do. I really need to get on this, but I didn't know what it was, right? And it's funny because I can sit here now and I can look back and I can go, okay, I see I had to do all these different working parts to get where I'm at right now. Things happened in such a way that it put me on this path, right? And I'm grateful that I'm on this path because I knew I needed to do something more. I didn't know what it was. Fortunately, I'm with someone who fully supports me. My husband supports me in everything that I do, and that makes a huge difference. He needed to be in my life, which that was interesting too. Because I've been married and divorced a couple of times, He and I got together. I had 2 kids when we got together, but yet, even though he had gone through all of that, whenever we met, my guides were like, so you need to tell him you're a medium and that you see spirit and see how he reacts to that. Because if he's good with that, then we're all good. I had no idea why that was a reason why. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I did. And he was like, good with it. And I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. Never would I have realized that I would be where I'm at now. Absolutely, he had to be okay with me being able to see spirit and hear spirit, and and he's amazed by this stuff. And I tell him messages from time to time, and he's like, "Oh my God, okay, so that was a little creepy because yes, I was talking to Archangel Michael, and you had told me to do that." And then Archangel Michael comes in and says, "Tell him that I was outside the door." So. I forgot what the question was. How I got to doing what I'm doing right now. But I feel like there were so many working wheels to get me to where I'm at. But doing the fairs, that once I decided, like I said, in my 30s, when I said, okay, what do you want me to do with this? That's when everything really took off for me. I started doing jewelry. I started using crystals and learning more about their energy. When I started doing vending fairs myself, I did my first spirit fair in Missouri because, I was still kind of in the closet.
Yeah.
So I did readings and I sold my jewelry. It was amazing. I had someone in front of me the entire day. Even whenever I finally got a break, I didn't realize that there were people surrounding me all over and that's another story. See, I can go off in so many directions.
Good, that's perfect.
But for that fair in particular, I was kind of worried because it's the first time I'd ever done readings in public for people, right? And I asked Archangel Michael, because I'm in bed. First, I'm in bed, and all these people start coming in. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And so I asked Archangel Michael, I said, can you put them outside? And he said, yes. And I said, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to be in this space where there's all these people and all this energy. How am I going to tune in to the person in front of me and not pick up on everybody else's energies, right? Yeah. And he said, I tell you what, he said, I'm going to put you in a violet purple tube. So when each person gets into your energy, it will just be you and them and nobody else. Well, he did that, and I'm telling you, people would get up and sit down in front of me, and the amazing thing is that I didn't hear anybody else. Like I said, when I finally got a break, the room was full. It was packed with people. I had no idea because he literally just put us in that, in that sphere. So from that point, I knew that was where my space was, right? It wasn't at other fairs for the general public. It was more in the metaphysical and the spirit fairs and things like that. Then I started vending in Texas. I got to know fabulous people all over the place there. And then there was just nothing really that was going on in Oklahoma. There was one fair that I knew of, and it was difficult for people like myself to get into because it stayed full all the time. And Spirit said, it's time for you to do your own fair. And I was like, well, that is scary. Like, how do I do that? Well, everybody's going to know what I do then. I mean, I've been in Texas and Missouri and you know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay. All right. So, tiptoed off into it, or I say I did. And the first fair was a huge success, And again, that let me know that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then it just grew and and here I am today, 8 years later. So almost 9.
Awesome.
It's cool hearing your experience from it, just from another person, because I feel like Kindle really relates to a lot of that. Having a supportive spouse in that realm, because you often hear people who are in the spiritual community saying that their spouse isn't
right
into
they don't understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you did readings or whatever for the first time, right?
Yeah, you're talking
like
about
an event or whatever. And
I had the same experience because I was really worried that like doing Reiki, in a big room with all these people everywhere, like how is the person going to relax totally? Like, am I going to be able to focus? Yeah. But I didn't notice anyone else in the room. Like it was just me and the clients were falling asleep. And I'm like, okay, this works. It's fine.
Right. It's amazing how spirit will work with you like that, right?
Yeah. And she's like kind of coming out right now with the podcast.
The podcast is kind of my version of your spirit.
Well, the podcast was kind of like my stepping out even more. And now I'm hosting my own fair in my hometown. And I did that for the first time last year. And I knew I was supposed to do that. But, I kept tuning in. They were like, not yet. But I could see things that were growing. I could see the community, growing and expanding and people being more curious and wanting to grow in that kind of way. And I was like, okay, I think it's time. And they were like, yeah. And it was awesome. We had a awesome turnout. It just blew my socks off. It really did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What, you said McAllister?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It feels so good, too, to just be able to be yourself and not have to worry about all of that. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It really is, coming out of the closet.
It really is. Yeah.
What do you enjoy doing the most for these events?
Well, at the fairs, there's so many different things that I enjoy doing, but I enjoy the conversations that I get to have with people, right? So I do my own booth as well at the fairs, and I do classes. So I do one class each day. If it's a 2-day event, the only one we do the 1-day event for is the one in Sand Springs. So I really enjoy the conversations at my booth. I call it the teaching booth because people will come up and there'll be conversations about different things, whether it's on the holistic end of healing or if it's on the spiritual end of things. And I have people that are regulars that come in and talk to me about their experiences, with different things. So that's awesome. I enjoy the conversations I get to have with vendors. Used to, the fair was small enough that we would go and have like a dinner the night before. But it's grown so much that we couldn't actually get in the restaurant because everybody wanted to go and have conversations and stuff. So that was great when we were able to do that. And I don't want anybody to be left out. So I'm like, and that became kind of cumbersome. So, and I enjoy the planning. I'm a planner. I am an organizer. I love putting the pieces together. I just like every aspect of it. I really do. And there's a lot of turning pieces and aspects to, the advertising and the creative part of that. There's lots of it that I enjoy a lot of it. Yeah.
Speaking of psychic visions, I think it was in October or November, I saw you at in a hotel ballroom, like a big conference, like you had a conference. So like a stage with like big classes and still like the booths and everything. But it was like a full 3-day weekend, like conference that like was national kind of thing. That's what I had this vision of you doing that. So I guess we'll see if I'm right.
Well, that would be super cool. I've actually had visions of me doing stuff like that. So, yeah.
I was like driving my car and I was like, she's going to totally do this.
That would be super cool. Yeah, I'd actually tried to do a conference and it kind of fell through.
Yeah.
But you know what? That was, whenever we learn stuff, again, it's never in the easy parts, right? So failure is a way of learning too.
Yeah.
So I figured out what worked, what didn't. I got some lessons on that. I actually created my new website because of the experience I had of creating the website for that conference. I wouldn't have stepped out of my comfort zone where I was building stuff like that at, But yeah, so that would be really super cool. I'll keep you tuned on that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Hey guys, just a quick pause for a moment. If you've been called to slow down, listen a little bit more deeply, or come back into alignment with who you truly are, this offering may be for you. My Soul Aligned Spiritual Mentorship is a one-on-one experience designed to meet you exactly where you are. In our sessions, we'll explore what you need in the moment to support your healing, growth, and transformation. Whether that's energy or sound healing, intuitive guidance, or gentle reflections, exercises, or journaling. It's a sacred space for you to reconnect, realign, and remember your own inner wisdom. I'd truly be honored to work with you. And as a special thank you to Quiet Knowing listeners, you may receive $20 off your first 2 sessions. Just email the Quiet Knowing podcast at gmail.com to learn more or to schedule.
How do you explain concepts like energy, spirit, or soul?
Oh gosh. Again, that can be splintered off into so many different things. Energy, spirit, and soul. Okay, so let's start with energy first, because I feel like they all come together, right? Energy to me is, it's just about anything. We can pick up on energy of anything, of any place, of any body, right? Especially as an empath, and you're an empath. So, whenever you walk in a room, you can really feel the energy of what's going on. Is it happy? Is it sad? You can I can zone in to that one person who's really sad in the heart, and you're drawn towards them to go and talk to them and help them, right? So energy is so much more than what people realize. When we put out energy of our words, our actions, our thoughts, there's this ripple effect that happens all throughout the universe because we're all connected. And so we can literally help, just like with this podcast. One person hears it, 20 other people they talk to. You know what I mean? It's going to influence. So we really have to pay attention to our words and our thoughts. Our thoughts are huge too. People don't realize it. I have a cut on my finger because I am a ding dong and I am clumsy. And I told my husband, I was teasing him about him cutting himself. And I'm like, yeah, well, your wife, she cuts herself easy. Or I said something anyways. And sure enough, I cut myself later on in the day. And I went, oh my God, I just manifested that. Words, thoughts, again, you know what I mean? But then spirit, gosh, or soul, gosh, that's kind of the same thing. And to me, that's the same thing. Spirit and soul is the same. We all have it. Gosh, they're showing me, for some reason, they're telling me that I need to say this. Okay, so in a meditation that I had, this has been probably 2 years ago, maybe 3. I'm outside, I'm meditating, I'm connecting with nature. That's when I get my most visual meditations, it seems like. And all of a sudden, they showed me what I look like. And they said, this is what everyone looks like. And it was a beautiful prismatic crystalline light is what we're made of. That's what our souls are made of. So when I think of souls, that's what I think of. And, there are beings out there. They're spirit, but they're souls too, right? Our angels, our ascended masters, you know what I mean? So gosh, I don't know that, like I said, I can go off into so many different directions.
I think that's super interesting. And I'd love to hear more about, what the physical manifestation of what you saw, this
It reminded me a lot of that vision I saw recently.
Yeah, you've seen something similar as well. It was almost, what I saw was like almost pyramidal in structure. And I'm wondering if, what you saw was similar.
Yeah.
You could describe it like that.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, it was just very crystalline, prismatic, rainbow colored. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I saw. That's what I see.
Yeah.
They had showed me that whenever people have blockages and things like that, that's when some of the prism is kind of darkened, you know what I mean? Or if they have illnesses, you know, traumas, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's when we start seeing those prisms kind of shift and change just a little bit. And we can kind of see that or feel it, you know, whenever we're doing energy work. Yeah.
Kind of similarly, they showed me that I was in it was like a crystal temple that my soul was in. So it's like similar, but like a little different. But it's that same like rainbow. It reminded me a little bit of, have you seen Interstellar?
No, huh?
Oh, okay. There's this thing called the Tesseract. It's like, it's the center of a black hole in the movie, but anyway, just it was really, it reminded me of that's the way the temple looks like, that kind of thing. And I can show you a photo later, but
oh, that's cool.
It was rainbow crystal, yeah.
Right. And they showed you they're doing the energy work. Is that what they showed you? Or?
No, it was like my soul was inside of this temple, and it always had been. And the way that they were showing it to me, they showed me myself as a little kid because my mom randomly bought this crystal, and I was like obsessed with that crystal. Like I thought it was so pretty, and I would stare at it, and I'd walk around just like looking, you know, through it. And for whatever reason, at that moment when I had that crystal as a little kid, like there was something spiritual about it to me, but I didn't quite understand it. But in this vision they were showing me now in the future, but they were also showing me as a child and how I was always like in this crystal temple. It was interesting. I don't know.
Oh, that is interesting.
It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminded me of.
Oh, that's cool.
Do you believe we all have a purpose, or is it something more that we create ourselves?
I think that, yes, I think we have a purpose, but I think we have many purposes. So it's not just one, right? I feel like we have, I think we still have free will. So however we get to those purposes that we came here, I feel like we come here with a soul contract, right? But because of free will and the many different splintered ways that we could go about doing things, you know, Spirit has a way of telling us, hey, you want to take the easy way, or you want to take the hard way, or you want to do something in the middle here, you know? So, yeah, I think we all have a purpose. I think we have a purpose every day, you know what I mean? Every week, every month, and a soul purpose, a life purpose. So again, I could splinter that off into so many different things.
What do you feel like in this moment, like your purpose is, like what you're meant to share or do?
In this moment, what Spirit has been showing me and telling me to do is I am supposed to share my wisdom, because I'm finally in a space, in a place where I have gathered enough human experience to combine with the expansion that I've had in the ancient wisdom that's come through me as well. Does that make sense? So now it's time for me to start sharing. So that's where my focus is for my own growth and my own expansion right now.
For those who are trying to find their purpose or are lost and confused, what sort of advice can you give them?
I would advise them, like we're talking about meditation. Meditation's huge whenever you're on your spiritual path. It helps you. And I know people have a really hard time meditating because of that rat wheel that goes. I was the absolute worst. I still can be at times. And I've been doing it for 30 years now, you know, so, but meditation's huge. If you have people to talk to, you know, ask your angels, ask your your spirit guides say, hey, you know what? I would like people that I can talk to that are like-minded, that aren't going to think I have a third head because of what I saw yesterday or what I'm feeling, or, you know what I mean? Or, all these different things. So yeah, ask for that soul family. That's what I call them, to come in. And you're going to find whenever you're in different energy aspects, you're going to have people that are going to come in and you're going to have people that are going to leave. You'll have some that'll stay for a while. So people will find that. And sometimes that's really sad because as our energy shifts and changes, people have a tendency to fall away. And that can be kind of sad. It's part of the process. But that doesn't mean they're always gone. Just sometimes they'll come back for a little bit. And then you'll go, oh, no, go away.
That does happen.
You'll say, okay, how about we keep our relationship here? So, yeah, and read what attracts you. Do meditations that you're drawn to. I've pulled up meditations on YouTube and stuff that I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. And then the voice was really irritating. Drop it, let it go. It's not the vibration you need, right? I've picked up books before and I was like, oh, this is super cool. because I'm an avid reader, right? And I pick it up and I couldn't get through 2 or 3 pages. Put it away. 6 months later, my energy shifted. I was ready for that information.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get through the entire book within a few days. So be patient with yourself as you're going through this, through the journey, and enjoy it. I have so many people, because I do women's retreats too, and, and I talk to people, they want to go from A to Z so fast, but it's so much fun in between. The experiences, everything that goes into it, the learning, everything. So enjoy the experiences while you're having them too.
Yeah.
And there are going to be times where you're going to be like, what the hell am I doing? Where am I at? What am I supposed to be doing? Even though if you know what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to be like, kick rocks.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely real, easy for people to want to just skip to the end and quick healing, but the journey is
the healing. Is so many layers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that as a Reiki master, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because not only do we have stuff that happens in this lifetime, but there's so much that we did that we maybe brought forward from past lifetimes. So whenever you start the healing process, I had somebody ask me one time, they said, well, when do we quit healing? Never.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you quit experiencing? If you do, then you're dead, right?
Yeah. I get that question a lot too. I was like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it never ends.
Right. Well, you
can get to a place where you're more healed and you can enjoy life more. But yeah,
right.
The journey is always ongoing.
Right. Yeah. I was talking to someone just the other day and, they had some traumatic stuff that had happened in their lives, right? And then all of a sudden, energy shifted. They had somebody that triggered everything, right? And they were like, oh, well, I guess I have some more to do. I was like, don't get frustrated with yourself, right? Because here's the thing. You recognize it now. Now you can go, oh, but you know what? I don't feel as dense or as bad, or, maybe you don't get that hit in the stomach or the heart space as much whenever that energy comes up because you're healing.
Yeah.
So now it's just time to dig deeper and go, oh, okay, what do I need to do now to, release some more of that energy and whatever it is, that had happened. So, yeah.
So what has surprised you most about walking this spiritual path?
I don't know what has surprised me most. I guess maybe there's been surprises along the way that I could say. Because like I said, I started out as a medium, right? And I had a friend of mine that was like, oh, the fairies. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'm laughing. I'm like, yeah, whatever, fairies. Well, then all of a sudden, fairies started coming up on my on my radar, so to speak, right? Whenever Spirit brings something to me, they'll bring stuff in front of me all the time, right? And I was like, oh, well, there was this fairyology class that kept on coming up. I was like, okay, all right, fine. I'll do the fairyology class, all right? So I did the class, and I'm a lucid dreamer. So that means that I can interact with beings and people in my dreams. I know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? It's like me sitting here and talking to y'all. So anyways, I have this lucid dream. I am in inner earth, and I have this fairy that comes up and she says, hey, my name is Tabitha and I'm your guide. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's super cool, you know? Next night, I go to sleep. I'm in the same place. This has never happened before or again, a matter of fact. And fairy comes up, looks exactly the same. And I'm like, well, we just met the other night. And she was like, no, my name is Tiffany. That's my twin sister. You have two guides. And I was like, oh, Tiffany and Tabitha. Oh, okay. Well, super cool, you know? So I've had surprises along the way, right? Like that. I've seen spirit that, you know, it's changed to where I opened up to different dimensions like that and being able to, you know, interact with them. The first time that I interacted with my dragon, well, that was a surprise. I'm in meditation and all of a sudden okay, maybe it was a surprise, maybe it wasn't, because here's the deal. As a medium, I see all kinds of stuff and I have a tendency to go, okay, I'll file that away for later, right? I'm not as inquisitive as I should be, I guess. So when I was working in my office, I would every once in a while see this little baby dragon that was just curled up and next to me. I'm like, oh, well, that's cute. File away. Right? Then I'm in meditation and all of a sudden this huge dragon, this fire dragon comes out. I mean, just right into my face. And I was like, so then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to do a deep dive. Couldn't find anything. Nothing. Spirit hid every single book, person, place, thing. I mean, and so I figured out at that time, I can see that now, but I didn't at that time. They hid all of it so that I would work with them in such a way that I'd have my own experiences so that I could give that to everyone else, you know? So yeah, things have just been surprising in different kinds of ways with spirit in those kinds of ways. The angels coming through in different ways too. I had an experience where Archangel Michael came in hot and heavy for a big protection for me when there was something that was going on. You know, just those different experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of lucid dreaming.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever had experiences with astral projection, which is maybe slightly similar, but...
Yeah. I mean, in what sense?
Like your consciousness while you're asleep, specifically, I guess, no longer being attached to your physical body, and you're able to kind of explore that.
I know that I explore other realms, right? And I go other places. So I guess that's what you're kind of meaning. Yeah. So I think the first time that I realized that I was doing that specifically was actually about the time that I was just fixing to start doing the fairs. I was fixing to start hosting the fairs, right? And I had a very lucid dream. I was actually in space, in the cosmos. And there was this being, and think Avatar No Tell, okay? Huge love. I mean, so much love. It makes, you know, have you ever had that kind of love where your heart actually feels like it's breaking in two, but it feels good? It's not like a heart break, but it's just so much love. That was the love that I had. And they just hugged me. And I didn't want to leave. I got out of the dream and I went, oh my God, I want to go back. That was one of those ones. And I've never been able to go back. But it took me a long time to figure out who that being was. You know what I mean? It started me on a whole other journey, you know what I mean, of opening up to other dimensions like I talked about. So that was one of the Palladians that had come in.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, have you ever been met with kind of an opposite experience where you've been exploring and you were like, someone doesn't want me here, sort of thing?
Okay, so I'm an energy clearer, right? And as a medium, yeah, I have come across dense and bad energies, bad entities, you know what I mean? Lower level stuff like that. So yes, I have. But what I found was that when I was in those places, I was there to remove and clear out that energy. But as a kid, I didn't understand that, right? My very first lucid dream was actually really scary. I was dreaming that I was at this place and there was these 3 women. And this was a repeated thing that happened like every other night and stuff, right? And they would come and they were mean, they were nasty. They scared me to death as a kid. And my mother said, use a little bit of language here. You tell those biddies to leave you alone and never come back. And I was like, okay. Well, sure enough, I had a dream that very night, went to bed, went to sleep, had that same dream. It was a lucid dream. I know that now. And I told him, I said, you never come back. You leave me alone right now. And it was just like they poofed. Never had the dream again. They never came back. You know what I mean? So that was my first experience with a lucid dream. So yeah, there have been times that I've been in places that I'm like, oh, this is not great.
Did you want to share your little story?
But that's the reason why I set up the boundaries and the protection, because I don't want to bring anything back into my space, for one. Yeah. And I want to be protected because I know I'm floating off out there into no man's land, so to speak.
But yeah, I'm curious about that sort of thing because I've had a personal experience with that. I got into meditation. I had always wanted to since I started really learning about more of the esoteric kind of mystical spiritual stuff when I was 12. It's so funny, what led me to this. I was raised, I'm going to talk about myself a little bit. Is that right?
No, you're good for it. I think that.
I was raised in a traditional Southern, Christian upbringing, and I never really felt like I belonged in the church. You know what I mean? That wasn't not to knock anyone who is totally dedicated to Christianity, because it's a powerful belief system for sure. Right. But yeah, I was watching an episode of Pokemon. I was 11 or 12 years old, and they went to the psychic gym, and there's these people who are doing these exercises where they're trying to guess or, intuit what sort of cards someone on the other side is holding up, and other exercises like that. And I was like, do people really do that? So I went online, and that just opened up the door for me into the whole spiritual world. And I wanted to start meditating back then, but I don't know, it just never happened until college. I was meditating a lot and really interested in astral projection, specifically during that time. So I practiced a lot, and it took a lot of hard work, but I was able to eventually. And I've always been really drawn to the moon. So I had the intention of, when I astral project, I want to go to the moon. So yeah, that was probably the first place I went, and it was such a cool experience. But after being there for, maybe even 30 seconds, there was a being just appeared in front of me and very sternly was like, I think it's time for you to go. And then I felt this intense fear throughout my body, and I was zapped back, into my physical body. Right. And there's been a couple other times when I've astral projected and I've wanted to go back to the moon, because I kind of had, how your mom empowered you and was like, no, you tell them, you know. I kind of had a thought to myself where I was like, wait a second.
Nothing can tell me.
Yeah. I can do whatever I want there. Yeah. And so, I had that in my mind next time I was to go to astral project to the moon. But when I tried to, I couldn't. I'd go through the tunnel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then never go anywhere. And I've been kind of confused by that and want to explore it more, but I've been out of the practice of astral projection, so I've been exploring other things. But yeah,
That's interesting. It's almost like he blocked you from going.
I feel like I've been banned from the moon.
Right. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there was something I wanted to. I think I just wanted to ask you more about energy protection, because that's something that a lot of people really struggle with.
Right.
Especially with mediumship. I think, it requires a lot of energy protection. So what
really
do you
does.
do for that?
So I feel like, okay, so that changes all the time. And the reason why I say that is because the energy changes and it shifts. It can depend on where you're at, who you're interacting with, what the energies in the collective are at the time. You know what I mean? So, but I always do a meditation every morning, like I said, right? Even if it just takes a few minutes, guys, if y'all are listening, just even if you're in the shower and you don't have time to sit down in the quiet, you know what I mean? Set a nice boundary. Something that my guides had showed me a while back, everybody said, put you in the bubble, right? Well, my guides were like, well, look, pop. That's really easy. Pop,
Yeah.
So think of stouter boundaries, there can be several kinds of boundaries. So whenever, say if I'm going to a funeral, and because of the empath, you feel everybody's sadness and their emotions and stuff, right? You can set a boundary around you that's in the color of like a beautiful pink. Think of rose quartz, because rose quartz, works with the heart and things like that. You can put that energy out around you so that it helps those that are grieving, but it kind of helps to protect you. So put your physical shield on. You see what I'm saying? Almost like a physical shield. I'm protected, but I'm going to put out this energy of everybody else being a little more calm, a little more, or if you were going into a meeting or something with somebody that you knew were going to be absolutely just horrible, right? Calming energy for you. Calming energy to go out, maybe a beautiful blue and aquamarine. I work with crystals and stones, right? You see me wearing my bracelets and stuff. I'm wearing lapis today because we're talking. I want my throat chakra to be nice and open. But I set up boundaries too, because I'm coming into a city area where there's a lot more people and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll ask my angels, hey, let's put some extra boundaries around my car. Keep it nice and, boundaries there. I talk to the guardians. There are guardians that are everywhere, in every single place. There's so many different types of guardians. That could be a whole different show. So I talk to them. Hey, help me to have boundaries. Help me to have safe passage. When that started coming through to me, I didn't know it, but the Indians actually did that.
Interesting. Yeah.
For a minute. You know what I mean? So
makes sense.
It's funny how that wisdom comes in and you look up stuff. But boundaries, I set boundaries around my house, in different ways. Energetic boundaries. I like to use crystals and stones again. I put quartz crystal out along with, and someone had said one time, remember, now that's a high vibrational stone and it just does healing, No, it does everything. It's a master crystal. So I use it. I use black tourmaline. Black tourmaline doesn't hold a negative charge at all. It never has to be cleared. It's super grounding. So I like to use it. I like to use selenite. Selenite is the opposite of black tourmaline. It's very high vibrational. It opens up the crown chakra. It works with the angels and stuff. But again, it doesn't have to be cleared. So I like to use those to do grids around my yard, right? I set an entire boundary around my house, and then I set boundaries around myself. You're probably like, well, then nobody gets in. But that's the thing. I set the boundary. Only my guides of light are allowed to come into this house. Only my husband's guides of light are allowed to come into this house or into even my personal space. You know what I mean? So there's lots of different boundaries, but I would recommend anybody that is setting boundaries to go with whatever their visual is, you know, whatever their heart space is telling them that they need. There have been times that my guides were like, we're putting titanium around you right now. Because the energies were so dense and so bad. They're like, you're under an energetic attack and we're just going to fix that, right? Yeah.
What's a book, quote, or teaching that's heavily influenced you?
Okay. Here recently, what I would say that I've been reading the most of, or in the past couple of years, has been Kyle Gray. I like his books, and Alana Fairchild. I like a lot of their books and the way that they present stuff. But in all honesty, they've kind of cut me off from reading a lot of other people's stuff. But I think it's because they've been putting me in that space of I'm supposed to be speaking everything that they're bringing into me, you know? So whereas before I was really drawn to different books and things, I found that energy's been kind of lopped off for the most part.
That makes sense to me. I feel like the same things kind of happened with me and like getting readings from a lot of different people. They're like, no, you have to do it yourself. You have to, you know, kind of build that skill for yourself. So
yeah, and listen to it because they'll get tricky.
Yeah.
So one time when I was doing readings down there in Texas and stuff, and I always use my tarot cards. I love them. I do my readings completely different from other people and stuff. And they said, you don't need those anymore. And I said, I know, but I like them. So I was bringing them every single time. And then I got to a fair and I had no tarot cards. I had no oracle cards. And I went, oh, that is not nice. So that was my first experience of going, okay, no cards today, guys. It's all coming through. It's all being channeled. And that's it. But that was their way of, I'm telling you, they hid the box.
The deep end.
Because I had a box.
It wasn't with you. That's funny. Yeah. If your soul could speak directly to the listeners right now, what would it say?
The very first thing that came to mind was follow your intuition. When you're on this path, use discernment. Listen to your intuition. Just because everyone else may be all about X, Y, or Z, doesn't mean that that is your path or your purpose or where your energy needs to be at right now. Because I see a lot of people that try to force stuff, you know what I mean? Or they try to follow something because their friend's doing it, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Know that you're unique and follow your own intuition and your discernment.
So what's next for you on your journey?
Oh gosh, a lot. Right now we're growing the fairs. Oklahoma City is our largest fair that we have and makes us the largest fair in Oklahoma. I've really grown it to where not only are we 2 days, but we're able to grow the classes. You know, if people have been coming to the classes, usually we would have maybe 8 to 10 classes. Last time in November, we had 17. In March, we're going to have 20. I'm working with Radiant Healing Arts Center, and they're providing some of their teachers. So, I just feel like it's growing. I just feel like it could go bigger than what it is. You know what I mean? To be able to help people, not only with having readings and seeing these wonderful vendors that I have from all over the United States, but also to be able to dive into things that maybe they don't have them in their area. Like I'm from a small town. We just don't have stuff like that, right? To be able to find items that you wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. But also I'm expanding in other ways. I'm starting to write, and that's something else that I'm trying to work on. I'm not going to give any tidbits because they said I can't yet. I don't know. I just feel like there's a big expansion that's coming, I guess, and I'm not sure exactly how that looks, but I can feel it coming. Does that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If people want to connect with you outside of the show, how can they do that?
There's several different ways they can do that. So I have my website. It's gypsysoulfair.com. They can go there. There's all kinds of information about the fairs. They can book readings with me. I do. I'm a Hall of Records person, so I'm one of 4 in the whole world that does that. I have a vendors page where people like yourself, they're going to be able to get their contact info. They can get a hold of me through email. They can get a hold of me through the website. So there's a place there that they can fill out and ask questions or be put on the email address if they want to know about future women's retreats or the fairs or, all kinds of different things that I'm going to be doing. Also on Facebook Messenger. I'm not real great at it. I'm just going to let y'all know because I'm so busy with so much correspondence in so many other ways. So probably the best would be email, really. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Or through the website because I get those notifications and I can,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, again, thanks for coming and being with us and sharing your story. And we really loved having you on. So
I appreciate it. I've really enjoyed it. It's been lots of fun.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.